Let's talk about Gaza. The small congested strip of land has come under a new wave of assault by Israel. In the span of 1 year and 9 months, close to 47,000 people have been killed. There is a glimmer of hope because US President Donald Trump says a ceasefire can be announced this or next week.
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind this week and maybe next week if not.
It's extremely uncertain to say anything when it comes to Gaza, especially because it's not a one-on-one war. There are multiple players with multiple motives. And one of them is the Houthis, a group that has just carried out another deadly attack in the Red Sea in solidarity with the Palestinian cause. So the question then is, will the Houthis adhere to a ceasefire? Why is even the US failing to tame the Houthis? And what does this tell us about the next war in the Middle East? I'm Nanya Datta, and you're watching Grey Zone. Since Donald Trump returned to power, he knew that ending the war in Gaza won't be enough. He needs a permanent solution to the Houthi terrorizing the Red Sea by targeting vessels since November of 2023. The group says its offensive will continue as long as Israel will continue its onslaught against the Palestinians. Before the war, the Red Sea corridor typically saw goods worth $1 trillion move through it annually. Trump entered the White House with a ceasefire in his hand. His predecessor, Joe Biden, managed to convince Israel on terms acceptable by both sides. The ceasefire was expected to last for 3 phases, but Israel shattered the ceasefire within 60 days, accusing Hamas of hostilities. During the 60-day ceasefire, Houthi rebels halted attacks on commercial ships, but said any Israel-linked vessel will be targeted. After the ceasefire violation, Trump intensified strikes on Houthis across Yemen, calling the operation Rough Rider. The bombardment continued for weeks, and rights activists raised concerns over civilian casualties. The US strikes in Yemen were led by the US's Harry S. Truman carrier strike group operating in the northern Red Sea. While the operation made its dent, it failed to obliterate the Houthis. The group shot down several American MQ-9 Reaper drones and continued to fire at naval ships in the Red Sea. The US strikes burned through weapons and munitions at a rate of about $1 billion in the first month alone. It did not help that 2 $67 million FA-18 Super Hornets from America's flagship aircraft carrier tumbled off the carrier into the sea. But suddenly, on May 6th, Trump announced a deal. One mediated by Oman and in agreement with the Houthis that neither the US nor the rebel group would target the other. By this time, over 325 attacks had been carried out using ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones by the Houthis. The deal did not mention whether the Houthis had agreed to stop attacks on Israel, and the truth is, it did not. But Trump was optimistic enough to announce victory over the Houthis. Cut to today, a deadly attack has shook the Red Sea again. Six crew members have been rescued and at least 3 others killed after a cargo ship was targeted and sank in the Red Sea. Houthi rebels attacked the Eternity Sea, a Liberian-flagged bulk carrier, because it was headed for an Israeli port. It was their second attack in 24 hours. The first was on Magic Seas, whose owner had done business with Israel and used its ports. Experts say these attacks are expected to rise because Israel's operations in Gaza have intensified. The past months are testament that both are directly proportional.
The battle with the Israeli enemy, the aggressor against Iran, with the crimes and genocide it has committed against the Palestinian people, as well as the ongoing attacks on the Lebanese and Syrian peoples, and the aggression against Yemen, before it turned to comprehensive aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran, with the goal of changing the face of the Middle East. As the Israeli enemy seeks complete control over the region, to implement the Zionist plan with open American support and American partnership.
The latest series of attacks come at a sensitive moment in the Middle East. A possible ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war hangs in the balance, and Iran weighs whether to restart negotiations over its nuclear program following US airstrikes during the 12-day war. Nevertheless, Trump seems to be optimistic about a ceasefire soon.
Well, we're talking about Gaza for the most part. I think we have a chance this week or next week. Not definitely. There's nothing definite about war and Gaza and all of the other places that we all deal with so much. But there's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind this week and maybe next week if not.
As the January ceasefire showed us that a ceasefire alone will not be enough to stop the Houthis. The group wasn't at the negotiating table then, it's not now. Yes, the Houthis are an Iranian proxy group funded by the Ayatollahs in Tehran, but to put them in the same basket as Hamas and Hezbollah would be wrong. The group has a mind of its own and the goals aren't always in line with what Tehran wants, which is why the Houthis are often called the rebel child of Iran. Of course, there is ideological affinity, but it is more out of convenience and less out of partnership. And since the war in Gaza, Iran has come to rely more on the Houthis and less vice versa. Every bomb dropped on Gaza could become a trigger in the Red Sea. So the real game will begin after the ceasefire. The devil will be in the details, one that the Houthis will be closely tracking. So as the world looks to Gaza hoping for a ceasefire, the real question isn't just when the bombs will stop, it's where the next one might land. Because the Houthis aren't fighting for territory, they're fighting for relevance and ultimate power in Yemen. Even if Trump clinches a deal in Gaza, peace will remain fragile. Because in this new Middle East, wars don't end with ceasefires. They evolve, shift coastlines, and find new proxies. And that's the grey zone we're now in. I'm Inanya Datta. Thanks for watching.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.